today's lecture, we will talk about parts of long bones, and we will also look at the blood supply of bones, and we will also talk about the various markings that we can identify on a dry long bone. So, starting with our first topic, that is parts of a developing long bone. Before discussing it, let's look at some of the images. This image is showing the external anatomy of a long bone. You can appreciate different parts of a long bone, starting with the epiphysis. This is the dilated part of a long bone, and it basically makes the upper and lower ends of a long bone. And also, the important thing about the epiphysis is that in this part, uh, the secondary ossification centers basically appear. And next is metaphysis. And metaphysis is a junction between the epiphysis and diaphysis. Important thing to remember about the metaphysis is basically here you can find the growth plates of long bone, which basically helps in growing the long bone. The next part is the diaphysis, and you can also call it the shaft of a long bone. This is the part where the primary ossification centers appear. We previously discussed about the primary ossification centers during the intrauterine life, and you should know the difference between the primary and secondary ossification centers. The primary ossification center basically occurs during the intrauterine life, and they will be developed completely by the 8th week of intrauterine life. And the second important thing about the primary ossification center is that they develop in the diaphysis. The next is the secondary ossification center, and secondary ossification centers appear after the birth, and the part where they develop is epiphysis. The next point that we are going to discuss is articular cartilage, and you can see in this image that the articular cartilage is covering those parts of the long bone that take part in the formation of a joint. So if we take an example of femur, then we know that it has a proximal part or the ball of the femur that takes part in the formation of hip joint, and the distal part, which is known as the distal part of the femur that takes part in the formation of the knee joint. So the articular cartilage is going to cover these two surfaces of the femur. The next is periosteum, and peri means surrounding. So periosteum will be the layer that is going to surround outer surface of the long bone. You can see in this image that it is approximately covering the entire bone except the articular surfaces. And this is an important point to remember, that the periosteum won't cover the bones, that parts of the long bone that are going to take part in the formation of the joints. And the function of the articular cartilage is to reduce the friction, and they act as shock absorber. Okay, so till now we have talked about the various parts of long bone. We discussed about the articular cartilage and its function. We talked about the periosteal layer, and this whole makes the external anatomy of your long bone. The next is the internal anatomy, and if you take a longitudinal cross section of a long bone, then that's what you can find. And if we talk about the upper image, you can see the medullary cavity, which is the part of your diaphysis, and it is composed of various parts, starting from the outer part, which is forming the periphery of the shaft or diaphysis. It is composed of the compact bone, which we already know is a hard bone. Then there comes the wall of the medullary cavity, which is formed of endosteum, which is the internal layer, and endosteum is very important because it contains osteocytes, and we know that osteocytes are the bone forming cells. So this layer will be responsible for the bone healing, remodeling and repair. The inside you can find a medullary cavity, and this medullary cavity, by its color you can appreciate that this cavity would be composed of yellow bone marrow or the fat cells. In the lower image you can see the composition of epiphysis, and you can see that the epiphysis is composed of red bone marrow cells, and this is composed of spongy bone. So within the spongy bones you can find out the red bone marrow cells, and we know that by function the red bone marrow cells are responsible for the process of erythropoiesis, which is the production of red blood cells. So the function of compact bone that we already know is to protect and support the bone, while the spongy bone is lightweight and it is made up of red bone marrows. Now let's discuss it in detail. Parts of a developing long bone. The first is diaphysis, and it resembles the shaft of a long bone. The center of ossification appears in the 7th week of intrauterine life. The ossification center is called primary ossification center. The second is epiphysis. Epi mean upon and physis mean growth, and it resembles the ends of a long bone. The center of ossification usually appears after birth at the age of 1 or 2 years, except the lower end of the femur. This is an exception, and this is a very important MCQ, where the secondary center of ossification appears in the 9th month of intrauterine life. So except the femur, except the lower end of the femur, where the secondary ossification center appears in the 9th month of intrauterine life, the all other secondary ossification centers will appear after birth. Types of epiphysis. Basically there are 4 types of epiphysis, and once again, before discussing them, let's look at the image. Okay, so the 4 types of epiphysis are traction epiphysis, pressure epiphysis, and the atovistic epiphysis and aberrant epiphysis. So these are the 4 types. Pressure epiphysis is that part of your long bone that takes part in the formation of a joint, and we know that this part will be a weight bearing part, so that's why we are calling it the pressure epiphysis. Once again, that part of the long bone that is going to take part in the formation of the joint, we are calling it the pressure epiphysis. And that part that is not going to take part in the formation of a joint, or it is non-articular part of your long bone, we are calling it the traction epiphysis. We have already discussed about the traction epiphysis, and we saw that some of the muscle tendons were basically inserting on the traction epiphysis. So the function of traction epiphysis is to provide a space for the insertion of the muscle tendon. So that's the difference between the pressure and traction epiphysis. Just remember that the traction is a non-articular part of your bone, while the pressure is the articular part of your bone, and the pressure epiphysis is the weight bearing part, while the traction epiphysis gives the space for the attachment of your muscle. The next is aberrant epiphysis. Basically this epiphysis is normally not present in people. Usually what happens, आपके पास as I discussed yesterday that the long short bones have 2 ends. आपके पास एक बेस होती है, एक हेड होता है. एबरेंट एपिफिसिस नॉर्मली जो होती हैं उनमें होता ये है कि आपके पास जो फर्स्ट मेटाकार्पल बोन है उसकी एपिफिसिस बेस पे होती है, और बाकी जितने भी मेटाकार्पल्स हैं उन सब की एपिफिसिस आपके पास हेड्स पे होती है। दिस इज़ नॉर्मल प्रोसीजर। वंस अगेन आपके पास नॉर्मली जो एपिफिसिस होती है फर्स्ट मेटाकार्पल बोन की, वो आपके पास बेस पे होती है, वाइल द एपिफिसिस ऑन ऑल अदर मेटाकार्पल बोन्स सेकेंड, थर्ड एंड फोर्थ एंड फिफ्थ, उनमें आपके पास एपिफिसिस वुड बी ऑन हेड साइड। बट इन एब्रेंट एपिफिसिस आपके पास इसके ऑपोजिट हो जाता है। एब्रेंट एपिफिसिस में आपको फर्स्ट मेटाकार्पल बोन की जो एपिफिसिस है वो आपको हेड पे मिलेगी, बल्कि जो बाकी आपके पास मेटाकार्पल बोन्स हैं उन सब की एपिफिसिस आपको बेस पे मिलेगी। वंस अगेन नॉर्मली आपके पास जो एपिफिसिस होती है इन द फर्स्ट मेटाकार्पल बोन, वो आपके पास बेस पे होती है, फर्स्ट मेटाकार्पल बोन, वाइल ऑल द अदर मेटाकार्पल बोन्स, उन सब में आपके पास जो एपिफिसिस होगी वो आपको हेड्स पे मिलेगी। बट इन द एब्रेंट एपिफिसिस आपके पास ऑपोजिट फिनोमेना होगा। आपके पास जो फर्स्ट मेटाकार्पल बोन के एपिफिसिस है डेट वुड बी ऑन द हेड साइड, वाइल बाकी जितनी भी मेटाकार्पल्स हैं उनमें आपके पास एपिफिसिस बेस पे होगा। सो this is the aberrant epiphysis. Next is the atavistic epiphysis. इसमें आपके पास क्या होता है कि पहले जेनेटिकली वो बोन्स जो कि इंडिपेंडेंट हैं बट लेटर दे फ्यूज विद अदर बोन्स। फॉर एग्जांपल द कोराकॉइड प्रोसेस ऑफ स्कैपुला, मैंने यहाँ पर अलग से इमेज पेस्ट की है एंड यू कैन अप्रिशिएट द कोराकॉइड प्रोसेस ऑफ स्कैपुला. दिस इज़ marked with red color. Another example is talus bone, which is the bone of foot. So these are the various types of the epiphysis. Just remember that there are total 4 types of epiphysis, and pressure and traction epiphysis. pressure वो है जो कि आपके पास articular parts हैं long bone के, and they are the weight bearing parts. Traction epiphysis आपके पास non articular parts है bone के, and they are basically providing the space for the insertion of the muscle tendons. Next आपके पास aberrant and atavistic epiphysis हैं. aberrant में आपके पास normally जो anatomy है हमने वो डिस्कस किया है, that in the metacarpals. फर्स्ट मेटाकार्पल, ये फर्स्ट यहाँ पर आपके पास मेटाटार्सल की एग्जांपल दी हुई है, एंड यूजुअली आपके पास फर्स्ट मेटाकार्पल में या टार्सल में ये होता है कि जो एपिफिसिस लाइन होती है, एपिफिसिस का पार्ट होता है लॉन्ग बोन का, वो आपके पास बेस में मिलता है आपको। लेकिन इन एब्रेंट मेटाफिसिस इसके ऑपोजिट फिनोमेना होगा. You will find the aberrant epiphysis in the first metacarpal or metatarsal bone in the head part, और जो आपके पास बाकी मेटाकार्पल या मेटाटार्सल बोन्स होंगी उनमें आपको बेस में मिलेगा एपिफिसिस. एटाविस्टिक में आपके पास वो बोन्स जो कि पहले जेनेटिकली इंडिपेंडेंट हैं बट डिफ्यूज़ लेटर विद अदर बोन्स, और इनमें एग्जांपल हमने कोराकॉइड प्रोसेस की ली एंड द टेलिस बोन. नाउ लेट्स डिस्कस इट. Okay, so pressure epiphysis, they develop in the vicinity of site of articulation during first and second year of development. For example, the head of humerus and condyles of humerus. So these are those parts of the long bone that are basically taking part in the formation of a joint. Head of humerus takes part in the formation of shoulder joint, and condyles of humerus takes part in the formation of your elbow joint. So these are the pressure epiphysis and weight bearing parts of the long bones. 5 paired long bones of limbs always have pressure epiphysis at both ends, that is humerus, radius, femur, tibia and fibula. Next is traction epiphysis. They develop in the site of attachment of certain tendons at the time of puberty, for example tuberosities of humerus and trochanters of femur. Atavistic epiphysis, these are phylogenetically independent bones which have become part of other bones, for example coracoid process of scapula. जो फोर्थ टाइप है वो आपकी बुक में डिस्कस नहीं की हुई है, बट यू शुड नो अबाउट द एब्रेंट एपिफिसिस. Metaphysis, they actively growing part of the shaft close to the epiphyseal cartilage and is called metaphysis. It is highly vascular and is responsible for the growth in length, because यहाँ पर आपके पास, as we have already discussed, you can find the growth plate here. That's why this is responsible for the growth in length of a bone. Epiphyseal cartilage, it is a plate of cartilaginous tissue present between the epiphysis and diaphysis, means at the point of metaphysis. After the completion of growth, it is also ossified and is represented by the epiphyseal line in adult bone. Completion of growth in long bones usually occurs between the age of 17 to 19 or 20 years. So it depends आपके पास कौन सी लॉन्ग बोन है. हर लॉन्ग बोन का जो पीरियड है ओसिफिकेशन का वो डिफरेंट होता है. And also it varies in male and female. Next is the blood supply of bones, and this is very important. Let's look at the image first. This is the appearance of the blood supply of long bone. अब यहाँ पर हो क्या रहा है आपके पास, you can see the nutrient artery coming. न्यूट्रेंट आर्टरी आपके पास डायफिसिस में आती है और न्यूट्रेंट फोरामेन होता है यहाँ पर. जैसे ही वो आएगी नियर द न्यूट्रेंट फोरामेन, इट इज़ गोइंग टू डिवाइड. It will go upwards and gives branches, and these branches will be known as ascending branches of the nutrient artery. It will descend and it will give branches, and we will name those branches the descending arteries. You can see at the lower ends on both sides that there is an anastomosis between the epiphyseal and metaphyseal arteries. So there is a very rich anastomosis between the epiphyseal and metaphyseal arteries. On the outer parts of the bone, you can appreciate the periosteal arteries, and remember that periosteum is very vascular layer of the bone. Periosteum में मैंने शायद आपको बताया है, but just remember that the periosteum is very vascular, and it has numerous arteries. Short होती हैं but they are numerous in number. So this is blood supply of a long bone, and we will discuss it now. Majority of the pores present in the bone are meant for veins mainly. Adult long bone derives its blood supply from following sources. Periosteal arteries, they are numerous and supply the compact bone of the shaft and spongy bone of the ends. Nutrient artery, it enters the bone through the nutrient foramen and it reaches the medullary cavity. It gives a number of branches which are descending and ascending. It anastomoses with the periosteal and end blood vessels. Its branches also pass through the Workman's canal and Haversian canals. We discussed the Haversian canals yesterday. It supplies little more than the bone marrow. The branches of nutrient artery are called nutria because there is a nutrient foramen, and the your bone is going to get its nutrients from the nutrient foramen. That's why we call these nutrient arteries nutritia. Arteries at the end of long bones, these arise from the two sources: periarticular anastomosis. These vessels are called the epiphyseal vessels of flexor. From the artery passing over that region, these arteries pierce the bone at metaphysis and epiphyseal cartilage respectively. And we saw the anastomosis in the figure between the epiphysis and metaphysis arteries. Blood supply of immature long bone. Here the additional epiphyseal and metaphyseal arteries are present. Epiphyseal artery surrounds the periphery of epiphyseal cartilage and metaphyseal artery supplies the metaphysis, growing portion of the diaphysis. These arteries are derived from the periosteal arteries, which are situated at the ends of the long bones. So that's how the immature long bone gets its blood supply. Blood supply of short bones. These are only supplied by the periosteal arteries. Blood supply of flat bones. These are supplied by two types of arteries which anastomose with each other. These arteries are periosteal and the nutrient artery. And remember that the veins follow the arteries. If there is a nutrient artery, तो उसके साथ में ही सराउंडिंग में आपको 1 या 2 veins भी मिलेंगे. Blood supply of irregular bones. Periosteal arteries enter the bone at the region of transverseness and they supply both compact and spongy bone. The smaller veins unite to form two large veins, basivertebral veins. These veins leave the body of vertebra at their posterior surface. So this is basically related to the vertebra. That's how the vertebra gets their supply, and there will be smaller veins that will unite to form the two large veins known as the basivertebral veins, and we will discuss it in detail when we will study the region wise vertebrae. Arteries of skull bones. That's how the blood supply of skull appears. The main supply is through the middle meningeal artery, and you can see the various branches of the middle meningeal artery. Middle meningeal is basically the branch of maxillary artery, and it comes from the foramen spinosum, which is an opening in the base of the skull, and we will discuss these foramen in detail and all the structures passing through it when we will discuss it. You can see the various branches: posterior branch of middle meningeal, interior branch of middle meningeal. So the skull has two types of arteries, periosteal and the middle meningeal artery. Veins start from diploic venous sinuses present in the diploic bone, which is the spongy bone. They drain into the dural sinuses, veins of skull and periosteal veins. जब हमने कार्डियोवैस्कुलर सिस्टम किया था तो हमने ड्यूरल venous sinuses और venous supply of head and neck को बहुत डिटेल में स्टडी किया था. So I hope you probably remember the venous supply of the skull and brain. Next is the lymphatic vessels of a long bone. So the lymphatic vessels are not definitely present, but they are present in a small number, and they will be present in the periosteal layer. Nerve supply. All bones are supplied by both mediated and non-mediated nerve fibers. When we talk about the mediated and non-mediated nerve fibers, that means the mediated nerve fiber will be covered with the myelin sheet, or we can call it myelinated nerve fiber as well. So the nerve supply of the long bone is myelinated and non-myelinated. These nerves enter the bone through the nutrient foramen and periosteum. Another important point is the direction of nutrient foramen. Just remember that the nutrient foramen will be present in the opposite direction of the growth of the long bone. For example, आपके पास humerus bone में nutrient foramen जो है that would be directed towards elbow, और जो उसका upper part है, जो आपके पास upper part है bone का उसका, that would be the growing end. Similarly, if we take an example of the femur bone, then the nutrient foramen will be directed upwards, and the lower end of the bone would be its growing end. So the direction of the nutrient foramen will always be opposite to the direction of its growth. Growth structure of long bone. अभी जब हमने एनाटमी की इसकी बात की है, इंटरनल स्ट्रक्चर एंड एक्सटर्नल स्ट्रक्चर देखा है लॉन्ग बोन का, तो हमने ये सारे फीचर्स डिस्कस किए हैं. नाउ लेट्स डिस्कस इट इन डिटेल. We know that the bone is a tubular structure which has two expanded ends, which we named epiphysis, and a long shaft of body, which we named diaphysis. The shaft is hollow and has a cavity filled with bone marrow called the marrow cavity or medullary cavity. We saw this in the cross section, and this medullary cavity was composed of yellow marrow. The walls of the cavity are very hard. हमने ये भी देखा that it was composed of the compact bone. That's why it was very hard, and thus make the shaft very strong with minimum expenditure of material. Usually the shaft has 3 borders and 3 surfaces. The ends are articular, smooth, and covered by the hyaline cartilage. They may be either concave or convex and expanded. The long bone is performed in hyaline cartilage and ossified by the replacement of cartilage by a very complicated process. So what basically happens ossification में, आपके पास जो पहले hyaline cartilage है that will replace with the cartilage. The primary center of ossification for the shaft appears during the intrauterine life. The secondary centers of ossification appear usually after birth. The nutrient foramen is present in the middle of the shaft and it is directed away from the growing end. Longitudinal section of a long bone shows the following features. The ends are composed of spongy bone covered by the hyaline cartilage and are the active sites of the blood formation. ये भी हमने देखा था that the epiphysis or the ends of the long bone were composed of spongy bone, and we also saw that there were the red bone marrow cells present, and the red bone marrow cell by function are responsible for the process of erythropoiesis. The shaft shows following features. It is covered by a fibrovascular cellular membrane called the periosteum, that was the outer covering. The periosteum is connected to the underlying cortical bone by the periosteal collagenous fibers which penetrate the cortical bone. They are especially developed at the site of attachment of muscles. These periosteal collagenous fibers are called perforating fibers of Sharpe. The periosteum of the shaft is continuous with the articular capsule or the joint capsule near the end. So the articular part basically आपके पास जो हैं उनके surrounding में capsule होता है. So the periosteum of the shaft will be continuous with the articular capsule near the ends. The periosteum is sensitive due to its rich nerve supply, which is derived from the nerve supplies supplying the muscles attached to the bone. However, the sensitivity increases in those areas where the periosteum is supplied by the cutaneous nerve, for example, in the tibia. Underneath the periosteum, the cortical bone is composed of the compact bone. ये भी हमने देखा था that the periosteum, underneath the periosteum, your bone was made up of compact bone. The narrow cavity or the medullary cavity is lined by the endosteum and contains a gelatinous material called the bone marrow. There are 2 types of bone marrow. Yellow bone marrow, it is a yellowish gelatinous fibrofatty mass present in the medullary cavity, and the red bone marrow, that was a red gelatinous mass consisting of hematopoietic tissue. It is engaged in the erythropoiesis and it is found in the ends of long bones, the bodies of the vertebrae, the sternum, the flat bones of the skull. The yellow marrow can be converted into the red marrow if need arise. The marrow cavity is absent in the clavicle bone and ribs. This is an important MCQ question. Now we will talk about the various terminologies used for the surface markings on a dried bone, and we will go through the images first and then we will discuss them in detail. So starting from the right, you can see the linear elevations here, and for example the gluteal lines of the hip bone. This is basically a hip bone, and you can appreciate 3 gluteal lines here: the inferior gluteal line, interior gluteal line, and the posterior gluteal lines. Now these are basically for the gluteal muscles. Between the interior and the inferior gluteal line आपके पास यहाँ पे depression है, and this space is basically for the gluteus minimus muscle. Between the interior and posterior gluteal line आपके पास जो space है, this is for the gluteus medius muscle. Then comes the ridges, and these ridges इनमें से हमने already linea aspera को discuss किया हुआ है, and we know that the linea aspera is a longitudinal line. This is the linea aspera, and there is also a pectineal line. Then comes the crest, and this is also, you can find them in the hip bone, and there are anterior superior iliac spine and the posterior inferior iliac spine. So these are the crest of ilium. Anterior superior iliac spine, you can feel them, and the posterior inferior iliac spine. Then comes the rounded elevations, the tubercles, and we have previously talked about the adductor tubercle of the femur, where the tendon of the adductor muscle was basically inserting. Similarly, tuberosity of the humerus and the trochanter of the femur, and there is a malleolus of tibia as well. Here you can appreciate the greater and lesser tubercle, and there will be the intertubercular space between these two tubercles, and this is the humerus, which is a long one, and there are tubercles. You can appreciate them in this image. There is a greater tubercle and there is a lesser tubercle, and between these two tubercles there is a space which is called the intertubercular space. नेक्स्ट इमेज में आपको ज़्यादा अच्छे से फीमर की ग्रेटर एंड लेसर ट्यूबरोस्टिस जो हैं वो हम अप्रिशिएट कर सकेंगे. अच्छा, ये आपके पास लेसर ट्रोकेंटर है फीमर का, एंड यू कैन ऑल्सो अप्रिशिएट द ग्रेटर ट्रोकेंटर ऑफ द फीमर. इस इमेज में आपको न्यूट्रल फोरामेन नज़र आ रहा है. सो जस्ट रिमेंबर दैट द न्यूट्रल फोरामेन in the femur, the direction of the nutrient foramen will be opposite to the direction of its growth. Okay. Sharp elevations में भी जो examples आपके पास आती हैं वो interior superior iliac spine की आती है. So interior superior iliac spine आपके पास it is not only a crest but it is also a spine as well. तो जब हम crest की बात करेंगे तो हम crest of ilium की बात करेंगे, crest of hip bone की बात करेंगे. And when we will talk about the spines, then we will say that there are two spines, anterior superior and posterior inferior iliac spine. Then comes the processes. Sharp elevations में एक आपके पास spine है और दूसरे आपके पास एक sharp process जो है वो अल्ना का है, which is known as the styloid process, and I think मैंने उसकी image paste नहीं की. I will send you that image separately. Then comes the facets, and facets are basically small, smooth and flat areas of the bones, and these are there are articular facets, and these can be flat and covered by the articular cartilage. Examples include the heads of the humerus and femur, the knuckle-like condyles of the femur, and also the trochlea of the humerus. Let's look at their images. राउंडेड हेड्स, हमें पता है कि उसके एग्जांपल्स आपके पास बॉल ऑफ द फीमर एंड ह्यूमरस हैं. You can appreciate in these diagrams, you can see the rounded articular part of the femur that we are calling the articular facet, the rounded articular facet, and this is the rounded articular faces of the humerus. नकल शेप की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो यहाँ आपके पास condyles आ जाएंगे femur के, and these are knuckle shaped condyles of the femur, and these are the articular facets. And in the humerus, the lower ends are basically the modified condyles, lateral and medial epicondyles, and the articular parts are the capitulum and trochlea. Trochlea आपके पास part है humerus का, which is pulley shaped, and this is that part of the humerus which basically gives the attachment to the projections of the ulnar bone. Okay, next comes the depressions. Pit or fovea, this is the first classification, and pit or fovea is basically a small and shallow depression. For example, in the head of femur, मैंने यहाँ डिफरेंट व्यूज़ से हेड ऑफ ह्यूमरस की इमेजेस जो है वो प्लेस की हुई हैं, सो डैट इट गेट्स ईजियर फॉर यू टू रिमेंबर. In this image you can see a pit or a small shallow depression in the ball of the femur, and basically यहाँ से आपके पास ligaments की attachment होती है. ये आपके पास एक cross section है hip joint का, and you can see the ligaments in the fovea of head of femur. सिमिलरली यहाँ पर भी आपको नज़र आ रहा है सेपरेटली हिप जॉइंट के पार्ट्स में पिट फोविया से आपके पास लिगामेंट अराइज कर रहा है, एंड बेसिकली दीज लिगामेंट्स प्रोवाइड द स्ट्रेंथ टू द जॉइंट. इसी तरह आपके पास olecranon fossa है in the humerus, which is once again giving the attachment for the projection of the ulna. Iliac fossa of the hip bone that we have already saw. Okay, next comes the notch, and this is a depression that would be bridged by a ligament. For example, the suprascapular notch of scapula, the groove or sulcus, and this is a depression that would have some length. For example, the radial groove of humerus. This is the radial groove of the humerus, और यहाँ पर आपके पास रेडियल नर्व ट्रैवल करती है. सो द ग्रूव और सर्कस वुड बी अ डिप्रेशन विद सम लेंथ. सिमिलरली द इंटरट्यूबरकुलर सर्कस ऑफ ह्यूमरस, जो मैंने आपको बताया था कि जो ग्रेटर और लेसर ट्यूबरोसिटीज़ हैं आपके पास ह्यूमरस की, और दोनों के दरमियान में स्पेस होगी. नेक्स्ट कम्स द फोरामेन, एंड फोरामेन इज़ अ डिप्रेशन और अ होल इन द बोन. फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल द न्यूट्रन फोरामेन, जिसकी हमने एग्जांपल्स देखी फीमर में भी, एंड देयर आर मैनी foramens that you can find in the base of the skull, और वहाँ से बहुत important structures पास करते हैं. I have pasted this image and this is basically showing the base of the skull, and appreciate many canals and also the foramen. सबसे जो आपके पास बिग foramen है, this is called the foramen magnum, which connects your skull with your spine. Similarly, you can appreciate the foramen lacerum, jugular foramen, जहाँ से आपके पास IJV जो है वो पास होती है. Okay, next comes the canal or meatus, and just like the groove that was a depression with some length, the canal or meatus would be a foramen with some length, and these are the external auditory meatus, pterygoid canal, hypoglossal canal, stylomastoid canal. यहाँ पर आपको बहुत सारी canal नज़र आ रही हैं. You can appreciate the internal acoustic meatus. Similarly the hypoglossal canal, and you can see कि आपके पास ये जो hole है, it has some length. Similarly the optic canal. So these are the various markings that you can appreciate on a dried bone. Now we will discuss these markings, and if needed we will again look in the images. So very small holes are present on the surface of a bone, and they are called foramina. Singular is foramen. They are much numerous near the ends and are meant for passage of blood vessels. In the middle of the shaft, a prominent foramen is present, which leads into a canal and directed away from the growing end of the bone. And this is the rule of the Newton foramen direction. It is called Newton foramen, through which Newton artery supplies the bone. The attachment of the muscles, tendons and ligaments produce different types of markings on the bone. The fleshy fibers of muscle produce no markings on the bone, while the fibrous elements like tendons and ligaments produce various types of markings, which are evident of puberty. These markings can be discussed as follows. Elevation. The raised area is called an elevation, and these are further subdivided into the following according to the shape and degree of prominence. So the first is linear elevation, and we saw the examples of gluteal lines of the hip bone and spiral line, and also we talked about the pectineal line of the femur. Let's look at them again. यहाँ पे हमने 3 gluteal lines देखी, inferior, anterior and posterior, and we saw that the space between the anterior and inferior gluteal lines is for the gluteal minimus muscle, and the space between the anterior and posterior gluteal lines is for the gluteal medius muscle. On the other hand, जो आपके पास longitudinal lines हैं या linear lines हैं on the femur, वो हमने spiral line और pectineal line दोनों देखी, and the linea aspera as well. Next is ridge, which includes linea aspera femur, supracondylar ridge of femurs, and iliac crest of hip bone. Crest में आपके पास एग्जाम्पल आ गया iliac crest of hip bone की. राउंडेड एलिवेशंस में ट्यूबरकल, फॉर एग्जाम्पल एडक्टर ट्यूबरकल ऑफ द फीमर. ट्यूबरोसिटीज़ में लेसर ट्यूबरोसिटी एंड लेसर ग्रेटर ट्यूबरोसिटीज़ ऑफ द ह्यूमरस. ट्रोकेंटर में आपके पास लेसर ट्रोकेंटर ऑफ फीमर, एंड मिलियोलिस में आपके पास मीडियल मिलियोलिस ऑफ टिबिया आ जाता है. इसको भी हम देखते हैं. दिस इज़ द मीडियल मिलियोलिस ऑफ द टिबिया, और लेटरल मिलियोलिस जो होगा that would be related to the fibula, and you can feel these miliolis on the lateral and medial aspect of your foot. Okay, so then comes the facets. Small, smooth and flat areas of the bone are termed facets. For example, the articular facets are flat and covered by the articular cartilage. The articular facets may show the following variations. They may be rounded like the heads of humerus and femur. So if the articular facets are rounded, हमने उनकी एग्जांपल्स देखी हैं, हेड्स ऑफ फीमर्स एंड फीमर. They may be knuckle-like. For example, the condyles of the femur, and condyles of the femur were the distal articular parts of the femur. The lower end of humerus is a modified condyle. They may be pulley shaped like the trochlea of the humerus. डिप्रेशंस में आपके पास पिट और फोविया जो है वो आता है, एंड इट इज़ अ वेरी स्मॉल एंड शैलो डिप्रेशन. फॉर एग्जांपल द फोविया ऑफ हेड ऑफ द फीमर विच वी सॉ, एंड वी सॉ डैट वहाँ से आपके पास जो है वो लिगामेंट्स अराइज कर रहे थे, एंड दोज लिगामेंट्स वर बेसिकली गिविंग द एक्स्ट्रा स्ट्रेंथ टू द जॉइंट. फोसा इज़ अ स्लाइटली लार्ज and deep depression. For example, trochanteric fossa of the femur, iliac fossa of the hip bone, olecranon fossa of the humerus, which was giving basically it was giving space for the attachment of the projections of the ulna. ओलेक्रोनन फोसा में आपके पास ओलेक्रोनन प्रोसेस ऑफ द अल्ला आके अटैच होता है, एंड देन दे फॉर्म द एल्बो जॉइंट. नोच, it is a depression bridged by a ligament, for example suprascapular notch of scapula. Then comes a groove or sulcus. It is a depression with some length, for example the radial groove of humerus जो हमने देखा, and it was basically वो वहाँ पर आपके पास रेडियल नर्व जो है वो रन करती है. दिस इज़ द ग्रूव फॉर द रेडियल नर्व इन द ह्यूमरस. Then the next example was intertubercular sulcus of humerus, and that was between the two tuberosities of the humerus. Foramen, it is a perforated depression or a hole in the bone. For example, the Natron foramen. Foramina are common in skull. Base of skull में हमने different foramen देखे, and they are numerous there. Canal or meatus, it is a foramen with some length. For example, external auditory meatus, pterygoid canal, hypoglossal canal, and the stylomastoid canal that we also saw in the base of the skull. Different canals and meatus हमने जो है वो appreciate किया base of the skull. So that's all for today, and if you have any question regarding this lecture, then you can ask. Thank you so much.